this is me, Super MC Gamer, and welcome to Hyrule Academy on this absolutely fantastic Friday evening. I hope you're all doing well inside the chat and at home, maybe watching on YouTube or on listening to our post recording upload. I hope you're having a very magical night, because we're talking about the Great Fairy tonight. But before we get into that, I do want to first remind you to pop into the show every single Friday at 10 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. It's a wonderful time where we talk all about Zelda lore and fan theories while listening to music. It's kind of a fun time. It's a bit of a dorky time, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. It's actually kind of crazy and kind of a really weird idea. That being said, let's get into some discussions. So this week we're going to be talking about the Great Fairy. Now, if you don't know what the Great Fairy is, it's more than just a single Great Fairy. We have many Great Fairies out there, and they're featured inside almost all Zelda games. There's very few games that don't feature some sort of Great Fairy figure. In fact, the first Zelda game even featured a Great Fairy, the one that you would go and visit at a nice watering hole, and it would refill your health. Later fairies, of course, do many other things in addition to that healing process, however. They also do some wonderful things, such as granting you items, giving you magic, all these really just kind of things that you wouldn't expect inside like a game where you revolve around swordplay. Of course, it becomes very fantasy, it becomes very, very magical. Magical is the word tonight. In addition, we will be discussing the Fairy Queen this evening. The Fairy Queen has appeared actually in numerous games, but most famous from The Wind Waker, and she grants you the fire and ice arrows. I have some questions about these fairies, and, when I think of fairies, I think the whole giving you magic thing in Ocarina of Time was a very good decision. It's like, the fairy gives you the magic of protection from the elements. It lets you teleport into between rooms in a dungeon. It gives you this fire burst. Like, that's very cool stuff. That's something I think a fairy could do. But giving you some special arrows, I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a bit harsh on tonight's game. It's my favorite game. I don't know why I'm being so harsh on it. In addition, I want to quickly mention there is a Fairy King in the Zelda animated series. Back inside the 80s, there was a Zelda cartoon that did premiere every Friday after the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, or instead of the Super Mario Bros. Super Show. I'm not quite sure. I wasn't alive then, but there was a Fairy King, and his name was King Oberon. We will not be discussing him tonight, but I just want to let you guys know that there is a Fairy King out there, and that's how other fairies are made. So now some questions for you all out there tonight. First of all, where the heck do these great fairies even get the power? Like we can't just say, oh, well, they're there, and they have this power. And everything in mythology and inside the fantasy worlds, it's all about, knowing, beings get their power from others. Inside a lot of, universes, a villain isn't powerful until he receives chemical infusion, until he gets blessed by a god. Like, what's happening with these great fairies? Why are they powerful? Why do they exist inside the world? Second, I want to know, they reside within a fairy fountain. Is this important? Is this part of the reasoning why they have so much power? Also, if you don't know Venus is a character from A Link to the Past who is a great fairy, but it's the only great fairy that's named. It has a specific name, Venus. That's very specific, and I want to know your guys' opinion. Why is Venus the only named great fairy or fairy queen? Is this important to us canonically? Especially as she doesn't possess the most powerful power inside the Link to the Past. She's the fairy queen, but she can't give you silver arrows like the fat fairy. What's going on there? Share your opinions on all these various questions over at radiohyrule.com/chatroom. If you are listening in live, if you're watching on YouTube, I apologize. I'm sorry. Come to the next show every Friday at 10 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, right? And all of you guys at home, your messages will be featured later on the show. We'll have a nice discussion section with you guys and hopefully find some answers about this mysterious great fairy who is in all these games with multiple fairies and queens and apparently King Oberon. Not sure what's going on there. Anyways, keep it locked to Radio Hyrule. I got some wonderful music for you tonight. First up is a bit of Big Band. I hope you guys enjoy. welcome back to Hyrule Academy, everyone. I hope things have been going good for you while we've been apart for 8 minutes and 20 seconds. I know you guys have been off the wall with discussions tonight. Holy smokes, I've been watching this chat, and I was not able to catch up until like that last minute. So, thank you guys for keeping the discussion strong inside the Radio Hyrule chat tonight. So, you've been listening to some great music there. That was one track we listened to, one track tonight, and that was Zelda Medley from the Nintendo Special Big Band. The Nintendo Special Big Band is a great little project that Nintendo did. Go check it out on YouTube. There's plenty of videos of that performance. It was absolutely wonderful. I really recommend the Super Smash Brothers Medley because it's just one of my personal favorites that they did. But that was good as well, and thank you to 33 Mets Rocks 5 on Twitter for giving me that suggestion. I'm sure that everybody at home is thankful that you did such a thing. Now, let's talk to a guest. We have a guest who's back for, I believe, his third time. It's great Scott LP. Hello.
Hi, how y'all doing today?
We're doing absolutely wonderful. So, at least I am. I don't know what thought it is. They never tell me. I'm like, I hope you're having a wonderful evening, but they never tell me if they actually are. So, you have been quite a busy person as of late.
Yes, I have been.
What have you been up to?
Well, in particular with Zelda, I've been devoting a lot of time to really kind of learning any percent for speedrunning the Wind Waker in much more detail. I do plan very soon to start speedrunning the full game, any percent. I believe this is the first time I've actually mentioned that in public. I wanted to keep it a secret, but the learning process has been a bit more thorough than I anticipated.
Oh yeah, I've been working hard on a Link Between Worlds speedruns, and I gotta tell you, it looks easy when you watch it on stream, but no, hours have to be sunk into it.
Absolutely. And what else? Let's see here. I believe I also... Well, in terms of non-Zelda stuff, we played Mario Kart together, and that was a lot of fun.
Mario Kart's a great game. Let's talk about the Mario Kart theories that I have. So, Waluigi, I think that everyone's cheating but him. What do you think of that theory?
I think everyone's a cheater.
Everyone's a cheater but me. Waluigi. All right, so let's move on into some discussions about the Great Fairy. So, the big thing that I would like to talk about before, while I have you here, is you are a huge fan of The Wind Waker.
Absolutely. It is, without a doubt, my favorite game in the Legend of Zelda universe to go back and play over and over again. Obviously, because I speedrun it, but also just as a casual playthrough, very, very good.
It is my favorite game. And the big fairy that we've seen, there are great fairies, and they're okay. But we do get to see the Queen of Fairies in this game. I believe for one of the first times they actually call her the Queen of Fairies, except for A Link to the Past. Mm-hmm. But her character design is one of it's a child, which first people they always have to bring it up. They're like, why is she the Queen of the Fairies when all the other great fairies seem to be more mature? Well, one thing that's interesting to her character design is it's very similar to another character inside the Zelda universe, Scott. And who is that?
Well, let's see here. I believe she has a very similar facial structure to Fi, actually.
Wait, hold on. Well, let's back this up. Fi.
Yeah. Fum.
Yeah.
No,
I'm not sure.
I alternate between saying Fi and Fi. It depends.
Yeah, I'm personally a Fi guy because I believe that's how it was canonically said by people. So I'll just roll with that. Anyway, so yeah, Fi and the Queen of Fairies look very similar. And this connection was not made accidentally like some people believe, because inside the Hyrule Storia, there's a large art section all about Skyward Sword, and it shows different designs of characters, like showing how they try to make the Skyloftians kind of like birds, like in their design, and like their loft wings. And when they showed Fi as a design, they had sketches of the Queen of Fairies next to them. Now, do you think there's a connection between them actually, like, canonically, like universe speaking?
Nintendo doesn't do these sort of things lightly. They're very conscious about their in-universe lore. So, to me, that does indicate that you really would expect sort of a connection between the two, because the character designs are very, very similar, down to the color scheme, the hair, the eyes, everything. So, to me, that really kind of symbolizes that they put a lot of thought into it, because when you develop video games, you put so much thought into your characters and your character design. So to me, it doesn't seem like an accident.
Well, do you have any theories on what the connection could be? However, like you can't, because of course, technically, and if we're talking canonically, Fi was first. But how could she have anything to do with this great fairy when she was sealed within the sword?
Yes, a very good point. And it's one of those things where the fairy queen in the Wind Waker is obvious. It's very interesting. It's implied she's a very old, powerful character, as opposed to her outer appearance, because of her ability to grant such power to Link. And she's so different from all the other great fairies that you see across the Great Sea. She's a very unique character. And it's a very interesting design. So to me, this implies that she is a very old and ancient character, as opposed to something like that. So she could be either directly linked in some sort of way, like she is a reflection of the character, perhaps, or she is directly descended from.
I have a theory.
Let me hear your theory.
Well, first of all, I don't think you may say directly descended from, but I don't think we saw Fi get to much reproduction during the course of Skyward Sword, unless that scene got cut by almighty.
I meant more along the lines of perhaps like an imprint of her.
Well, you're on the right track with what my theory is, and it's that Fi was created by Hylia. It was very, very specific. She was created by Hylia. Perhaps, and we're going to be discussing this a little bit later on during our community section of the show, perhaps it was that the Great Fairy and all these Great Fairies and the Queen of Fairies were all designed by the goddess herself. Why else would the Queen of Fairies have a very similar design? Maybe it's not the game designers having similar mindsets. Perhaps it is Hylia inside her immortal form before the destruction of Demise.
Absolutely.
I think that's a very plausible theory, and we'll have to expand a little bit more on that in just a little bit. But keep your discussions coming right on over on the chat room, which is radiohyrule.com/chatroom. That is if you are listening live. If you're not listening live, come back here Friday at 10 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. We do this show pretty much every week. We might occasionally have to skip a show if there's unplanned things, but for the most part, it's pretty much every freaking single week. It's a fun time. And anyways, I got some more music for you. Got some great stuff coming up. Got some good stuff, some stuff that you guys always ask for, and also something a bit strange. Keep it locked to Radio Hyrule. And welcome back to Hyrule Academy, friends and family. Hopefully you're doing well, because during the last break, me and Scott have recited the Bill Cosby rap and discussed sending students to the principal's office in the academy tonight
for lewd comments in the chat.
For lewd comments about the
tisk
about the Great Fairy. How dare you, friends? The Great Fairy is only the epitome of holiness inside.
And it's funny too, because I'm actually a public school teacher and I have run detention before, so watch out, guys.
Oh no. Coming soon from Radio Hyrule.
Scott's Detention.
Hyrule Academy Detention, hosted by Scott, where you have to listen to silence for 1 hour straight.
Best radio show ever.
If you type things in chat, you are banned from all of the chat. So we got a little music to cover there. We listened to some great tunes. First up, we heard the Dark World theme from Blake Robinson's Synthetic Orchestra. Have you ever listened to much of Blake Robinson? He does a lot of good stuff. I believe, didn't he do work on the soundtrack for That One Weird Game?
That One Weird Game. Yes, I remember that one weird game.
With the name, with the guy's name.
With the guy who does the thing.
He does. I can't remember it. I'm sorry. I'm terrible at this. Then we heard the Zelda 2 Adventure of Link Temple Palace theme, a cappella, by the one and only Smooth McGroove. Thanks to Felix Nemesis, not Nemesis, Nemesis, or Nemes, as it were.
Nemes.
Thank you for your request to that song. It was absolutely wonderful. After that, we heard the Dragon Roost Island, played on 8 floppy drives for you young people. A floppy drive is a precursor to a flash drive that you would plug in, and you would put discs in there, and they would hold approximately not a whole song.
I actually still have Windows 3.1 on a floppy disk, and I have a USB compatible floppy disk drive.
So are you planning on creating some Dragon Roost Islands anytime soon?
Probably not. It's one of those ones that's a little bit less mechanical.
Right.
So it would be very difficult to create music out of it, I think.
And that was by Mr. Solid Snake 745, and that request came in from Pythros. Thank you very much to Pythros, as always, for watching the show and giving us your support. Now, let's get into some discussions about what you guys have been saying. I have lots and lots of thoughts about the origin of the Great Fairy, mostly. But before we get into the origins, let's get into a message from Bubba Kev, who says, the only place that you can meet Great Fairies is in the fountains, because it is a secluded, sacred spot, and the Great Fairies are not the only fairies. What about the Fairy Queen from the Wind Waker? So what Bubba Kev here is saying is that all the fairies are secluded and secure. And why might that be, Scott?
Well, they hold very special power, and they are also very integral to Link's quest in every single game. For example, in the Wind Waker, that we have been loving talking so much about this evening, the Fairy Queen is in Mother and Child Isles, which, in order to get to the larger part of the island where she is hidden, you have to know specifically the Ballad of Gales. It's inaccessible unless you have that song. And
how do you get that song? You have to be able to play it using...
You have to use the Wind Waker.
The Wind Waker. And the Wind Waker is a single item that was given to the king. So it's not like anybody's just going to wander into the Queen of Fairies unless they happen to, be a bird.
A seagull. Perhaps it wants a hoy pair.
Or a Rito. A seagull just flies right down into Mother and Child Islands.
Are you Link?
You
Here, have some arrows.
I'm sure that's exactly what happens. So yeah, the point is that perhaps these fountains are made to be secluded and safe.
Protected. Yeah, out of sight, not known to the wider world.
Except by the Ritos and seagulls, because they can fly. Anyway. So a comment from Hylian7335, who should make a name inside the chat next time you come on and visit the Radio Hyrule chat, that maybe the fairies are the goddesses' priestess, as in they are beings that are...
Perhaps they derive their power from helping out the goddesses, to giving them worship, perhaps. Who knows? I think it's an interesting theory.
Well, you don't see any churches, well other than like the Temple of Time, but that's not really much of a church, more of a temple.
Right, but... the fairy fountains sometimes resemble, like ancient shrines and stuff like that. So it's a plausible theory. I think it's very interesting and a very good thought.
I would think that they're more of connections to the goddesses.
Yes.
Like perhaps they have these places of worship where people can go to them. Of course, we just talked about them being secluded and inaccessible. But I don't know, it's a fair theory. Now let's go to Captain Trina's weird, out of left field theory of the week. What if after death, souls become fairies?
That's one that I'm not so convinced of, because it's very much established in the lore of the universe that one can become a ghost. So if you can become a ghost,
Poe, you mean?
Oh yes, yeah. A Poe. If that happens, then how do you become a fairy? Who is selected to become a fairy?
Well, in addition, they say, Captain Trina says, the stronger personalities, so to speak, become stronger fairies, like the Great Fairies and the Fairy Queen. And what Captain Trina might be going on, and I kind of am going to go off of this, is that perhaps it was that when you die, if you were good in life, you become a fairy, and if you were bad in life, you become a Poe. But in addition, something that could really relate to this is, it's pretty well communicated inside the lore of The Legend of Zelda and Hyrule that Hylians each can contain magical power. Like they each can have their own sacred power given to them by like exposure to like this land of the Triforce, a magical land. So perhaps those people who have this sacred power, maybe after death, their sacred power, like the law of matter of something, like this magical matter just can't just die with them. So instead it forms
takes
a fairy.
A new form.
And,
sure.
and perhaps an unpowerful being like a common villager in Hyrule Castletown becomes becomes a healing fairy, you know, or you know, it just floats around and like you can catch it in a bottle, woohoo. Or alternatively, if like I don't know, the king of Hyrule, he's dead. Suddenly he's a large, great fairy woman and is giving you. And is giving you Furore's wind, you know? Who knows? I mean,
You know what? You sold me. That's the theory now.
the Hyrule...
the king of Hyrule is a giant womanly fairy, of course.
Of course, inside the adult timeline line right now, there is a large, great fairy down there just wishing for hope. You know, just chilling down there.
Oh, King Daphnes, you certainly let yourself go.
Yes. So some more theories about this is Chase Aaron says, could they perhaps be a sort of servant to the goddess, put on Hyrule to assist the hero?
A very likely theory. In fact, I think that the one hits the closest to the truth. Because, as we discussed before, it's very likely that the fairies themselves, the great fairies themselves, were made specifically by the goddess. So it logically follows that they were created with a specific task in mind to aid the hero.
And so they hide themselves and wait for the hero to find them as kind of a test of power, wisdom, and courage. Very very similar to how the goddess Hylia forced Link inside Skyward Sword to seek power, wisdom, and courage before he could even think about getting to the Triforce, you know? Like, she was like saying, you can't have this Triforce until you prove to me that you are the hero. And so maybe that's a similar thing. And as you know, to become a hero, you must possess two things in life. One, the ability to play simple musical tunes, and two...
a very good sword.
Explosives, actually.
Yeah, that
to blow up the rock
well.
in front of their shrines. I don't know. Maybe that is just a bit off the wall. Related, Slowpoke's Gamer says the source of their power could just be inherent. They seem to have a connection to Furore at the least. So maybe more specifically coming in from Furore was the one who created these fairies, because as you know, Furore is the one who created...
She's the one who bestowed life.
Yeah, she gave life to the land of,
verdant,
Earth and Law.
The verdant color of green.
Yes, indeed. So perhaps that these fairies were given to the world by Furore herself, and that they naturally just continued on and continued being in existence. However, something that's kind of related to this in my previous theory about Skyward Sword, and it kind of ties to really well with Phi as well, is that the great fairies were only bestowed upon the earth following Skyward Sword, because we do not see any great fairies in Skyward Sword. Which I find very interesting. But there's a theory that comes in from the chat that kind of expands on this further. Yasi Taru comes in and says, the great fairies might be descendants of the dragons from Skyward Sword, who are servants of the goddesses. Giovanni Vaughn continues this theory and says, I think the great fairies originate from the dragons, since Lanayru ultimately died early. Maybe he and the other dragons may have conjured up the great fairies to keep hold over the great magics in Hyrule. So instead of letting like this powerful magic given like these not gods, but these demigods, so to speak, who are in the land, they chose to give their power and spread out through these great fairies. And like I said, we don't see great fairies until the Minish Cap, which is the next game following Skyward Sword canonically. Maybe that these dragons were basically the great fairies of that game, essentially, and maybe that's because they became the fairies of the world.
Certainly plausible, as we actually discussed before on the show. Evolution and change in Hyrule is definitely an established thing in the canon, right. So it's highly plausible.
So I'm going to give that theory a solid good. I was going to give it a rate.
It's like Wikipedia. This article is rated good.
Good. You killed me.
Good.
Shout out to Wand of Gamelon,
aka the greatest Zelda game ever,
which we will be discussing next week on Hyrule Academy. We discuss Ganon and why he has two N's in his name. Some other little off the wall theories here before we get back into the music. First of all, Metzrock says, how does the power remain inside the world? They eat other fairies. Survival of the most magica. And the fountains exist because they were meant to commemorate the fairies they ate. They were delicious.
Delicious fairy. I mean, Grandma takes fairies and mashes them up into her soup as the secret ingredient. I mean, how else does it restore so much life and magic?
And isn't it magical that you bring her a fairy? Maybe the fairy doesn't heal her. Maybe she just stores it away for future delicious soup.
She puts it somewhere safe.
That's why she was sad. She wasn't sad because Link and Errol gone. She was like, I just used my last freaking
I am unable to make your favorite soup, Link.
I know. I use all my fairies on this soup. And then y'all go and run away, go save your sister. You won't even have any of my soup. Here, have a fairy, Grandma. Oh, bless you, child. Thank you. And that is what she sounds like in my head. No. Anyways, that is going to be the end of our community section of the show. Thank you again to everybody who was over in the chat room giving me your thoughts and opinions. We had some great theories on the origins of these fairies. Oh, well yes, Scott.
And real quick, I think we missed one. I remember seeing in chat that, like in Majora's Mask, the great fairies are composed of many smaller fairies.
Oh, yes, I guess I missed that.
Perhaps the fairies are these weird symbiotic organisms. I mean, you, dear listener, as a human being, are composed of many, many, many different kinds of organisms. You are not just you, after all. You have lots of bacteria inside you. So, who knows? Maybe the fairies are these weird sort of symbiotic hive mind organisms.
Well, everyone, it's time to go to the public library for some research.
Oh, those subtle little hints there.
Yes, indeed. Anyways, keep it locked to Radio Hyrule. We'll be back in just a few minutes. And welcome back to Hyrule Academy, Hylians and friends. It's time for recapping the music section that you just listened to. That was 3 songs. First up was Nothing Set in Stone by Second Chance, a very wonderful remix of Stone Tower Temple, done on the piano with some light synth in the background. It was very nice. Requested by Keegan Brown. Thank you very much, Keegan, for your request over on Twitter. After that, we did hear some Astral Observatory. That particular arrangement was by Zelda Reorchestrated, and that was requested by RSMV Plain Dong.
A very good request, if I may say so myself.
Yeah, Scott is a huge fan of the Astral Observatory. It's a very wonderful song, and a very good, of course, arrangement by Zelda Reorchestrated. Following that was the Song of Storms by Commander Spaceship, which came out of nowhere, requested by Grumblezard. I hadn't heard that at all before today. And let me tell you, friends,
absolutely fantastic.
That was absolutely one of the greatest things I've heard. I'm going to have to do some research on this Captain Spaceship, or Commander Spaceship. Mm-hmm. My apologies to the commander. Oh my God, he's gonna hunt me down in his spaceship.
Shout outs to the motorcycle.
No, that is a helicopter. Oh no, it's Commander Spaceship.
He's coming to get us.
You probably can't hear it, but a helicopter just flew over my house.
But the jazz tonight has been absolutely great. Love the big band, love the jazz. It's good stuff.
Indeed. So now to finish up tonight's show, let's recap our discussions a bit. First up, Scott, we talked all about the origins of the Great Fairies and the Queen of Fairies, and what were some of our various theories that we heard from them about tonight?
Well, are they the souls of dead Hylians? We determined that this is it could be plausible, but we kind of went away from that one.
Well, you went away from that. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. It's an okay theory.
Yeah, I wouldn't be upset with it if it became canon. It's it's thematically pretty good.
Right.
We also had the Dragons of Skyward Sword. Did they change? Did they evolve into the Great Fairies between Skyward Sword and Minish Cap? It's a plausible theory as well, since we've established that's part of the universe.
Indeed.
And we had Creations of Hylia, which is definitely supported by the very blatant similarities between Fi and the Queen Fairy
from the Wind Waker.
Indeed.
And lastly, there was one more theory, which was, of course, that they are creations of the Golden Goddesses, perhaps particularly Furore, which also maintains a very plausible theory. All 4 of those theories, very plausible, very, very good, excellent observations from the chat.
However,
we
have determined over the music break that all of these theories are false. We've determined that the fairies are both symbiotic creatures and cannibals.
That is mostly correct.
That is of course a joke.
Yes. But yeah, so there were some discussions about symbiotic creatures and a little bit of cannibalism amongst fairies this evening, and I'm okay with it. So thank you guys for a wonderful show. And a reminder to tune in next week, Friday at 10 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, where I'll be here talking all about the Dark World. The Dark World, of course, from A Link to the Past, the wonderful land, the Sacred Realm once changed into a creepy crawly zone. Yes.
And I hope you do discuss the similarities between A Link to the Past and A Link Between Worlds in that section as well.
Oh, I'm sure we'll touch on it. I'm sure we'll touch on it. And a reminder, if you enjoyed tonight's program, to go over to radiohyrule.com/donate and throw a few rupees to the wonderful gentlemen who run Radio Hyrule. Keep the station up, making new shows with new equipment and other such things as that. And also, please email me at mc@supermcgamer.com. Super MC Gamer. I should probably enunciate that a little better. It kind of came out. Super MC Gamer. supermcgamer.com with requests and any other theories you might have. And lastly, thank you, Scott, for coming on the show. You want to give some shout-outs out to some of your personal projects?
Yes, absolutely. So I forgot to mention earlier, I'm probably going to do a Let's Play playthrough of the Wind Waker HD soon. You can find that on my YouTube channel, Great Scott LP. I'm also on Twitter if you want to follow me, at Great Scott LP. And in particular, I'm very excited about this. You can check out my Patreon page. I have some very fantastic stuff on there, and the ultimate goal is to have enough money that I can move in here with Mr. Super NC Gamer, who I am staring at with my eyes at this very moment.
It's kind of creepy.
We do have the goal of moving me in here so that we can create more awesome content like you heard tonight together. So I would appreciate if you could head on over there and give it a look.
That would be absolutely wonderful, because I do have some secret Zelda-related projects that might come to fruition if something
and we
like
are
that
both
happens.
very excited about it.
Oh, yes, for sure. And lastly, just thank you all for coming out tonight. Thank you all for attending tonight's show and showing your support. I would say it's one of our best episodes yet, and I'm very excited to do it every week with you guys. And that is going to be the end of the show tonight. But before you guys just sign on out, stop that, I got one last song for you. It is the Dark World theme on 7 Ocarinas from Doc Jazz 4, also known as David Ramos, a wonderful, friendly fellow who I've never met. So, thank you all for tuning in to Radio Hyrule tonight and Hyrule Academy. Keep it locked to the station and enjoy some more Zelda music. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful night.